Good morning and welcome to Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living Wednesday morning inspirational service. So glad you're all here. Welcome to all of you who are online. I'm Reverend Gregory Toole, and I'm going to open us with prayer and share some announcements before our wonderful guest speaker, Reverend Katherine McKinney, comes forth. She's coming right here, right now. We'll have her in a moment. So let's turn within for prayer and let us all hold in our hearts and in our prayers all those who are affected by the fires. It's hitting people in this community very closely with friends and family that they know who are being evacuated. So let's hold them all in prayer this morning, and let's turn within for a moment here. And so we just take this moment to know that even now, God is all there is, that there's only one life, one power, one presence of infinite love, infinite harmony, and infinite wholeness. And so I know that my very life and being is a divine expression of that one whole, perfect, complete life that is God. I know that this is the truth of each one of us here. I know it is the truth of each one who is impacted by the fires, that each one is a divine expression of that one. And so in this moment, I speak my word, and I just see so clearly love surrounding and enfolding every person and every person being supported, being uplifted, being divinely guided into safety, divinely guided into peace and wholeness. And I just bless each one. I just hold everyone in that deepest place of love and tenderness, knowing that God is greater than it all. Whatever takes place to our material things or whatever takes place in this life, there is that something that is greater than it all. There is that something that holds us in its bosom, embraces us in love, comforts us, and steers us through whatever situations come up. And so I just bless each person. I know that our time here today, this morning, is uplifting, it is comforting, it is inspiring, and that we leave here today changed in some way for the better, whether it be we feel more peaceful, whether it be we have a new insight, a new awareness, that something shifts for each one of us, and it is good. I am grateful, and I just let it be, and so it is. So welcome again. I'll share a few announcements with you all. How's the new year getting started for everyone? Everyone's going like all the resolutions are still intact. I don't do resolutions. I do intentions of like where I want to put my energy, where I want to put my attention and focus, but I don't do any of the like, I'm not going to do this anymore, or now I'm going to start doing this. It's more like, where does my energy want to flow for this year, and what shifts want to happen for me this year? One of them for me is rest, really paying attention to getting really good rest. And when I was on vacation the week last week, it was just like so sweet to like fully rest every day. It was like, let's keep doing this, you know? So anyway, that's me. Enough about me. What do you think about me? No. So let's see. Our Labyrinth Walk will continue in February, first Thursdays, February 6th at 3:45 p.m. The spiritual discussion group that meets on Thursdays is on hiatus right now until further notice. I, Reverend Gregory Toole, am teaching a class, a certificated foundational science of mind class called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. It's on 6 Thursdays from 6 to 8:30 p.m. starting January 23rd. And this is a class as a prerequisite for all the other certificated classes, and will really provide some practical tools, because the class literally gets into specific areas of life like relationship, health, abundance and prosperity and finances, and it's really hands-on and a really great way for us to take this teaching and apply it very directly in our lives. So I invite you, especially if you've never taken a foundational class, I really invite you to take this class, because, you know, we hear a lot on Sunday, or we hear a lot in the services on Wednesday, and the foundational class is what ties it all together and really helps us understand, like, what is the science of mind teaching that's being offered here. So I invite you all to join in that. Starts on the 23rd, Thursday evenings. We also have, starting tomorrow, and ongoing on a weekly basis, for those of you who are Spanish speakers, one of our practitioners, Elaine Yuzuki, will be offering based on Ernest Holmes' book, This Thing Called You, a study group in Spanish. So obviously we'll use the Spanish version, Spanish language version of This Thing Called You, which don't even try to get me to pronounce it up here right now. But there is a Spanish language version, and that group will meet every Thursday and do it in Spanish, do a study group in Spanish around that book. And I know that we did that in one of my former communities, and it was very good for, because, I can't imagine studying science of mind if English wasn't my first language and studying it in English, right? So for people for whom Spanish might be their first language, this could be really a helpful thing for them. Tomorrow evening, ecstatic dance. Yay. Anyone else excited about that like me? There we go. Malia's excited about it. I know that. We actually, Ryan, who normally is our DJ, is in Hawaii, but we have a special treat because Elise, who does our music and is a master with music, is really excited to be DJing tomorrow evening. So it's going to really be cool and special tomorrow. And so if you're up for that, join us at 6 p.m., dress comfortably. We dance in bare feet, although some people don't feel comfortable, either need more support. So if you do need to wear your shoes, just make sure you're really aware so you don't step on anyone's toes who's dancing in bare feet. But generally we dance in bare feet, and there's no right way to do it. It's just the most freeing thing we could ever do, just to be able to move our bodies however they want to be moved. Hospitality, those are the folks who work in the kitchen and make sure we have snacks after service on Sunday. They could really use some support. There's been a little bit of transition. Some people are moving out of there, which is making room for people to move in. So if you're a person who really likes bringing food to people, then let us know at the front desk here, and we'll get you hooked up so that you can be part of that team. And even if you just want to volunteer one Sunday a month, that would be helpful. So we've got some opportunity there for people to get involved in that. And we know we all love food, so we all can help to bring the food and prepare it. And we actually grant goes and orders for the most part, the snacks every week. So it's not like you have to go order them, but it's like kind of getting them out, getting everything set up, getting everything ready, getting everything prepared for when people come out so that they have snacks. And we have a lot of activities going on here. So you can go to the activities table. You can look in our weekly e-newsletter. You can also look in our Spirit Speaks magazine to find out more about the various activities. We thank our volunteers, our Sacred Service volunteers. You are the lifeblood of the center, and we really appreciate all that you do. And let us bring forth I'm going to end with the announcements. That is the end of the announcements. Let us bring forth our wonderful, beloved Reverend Katherine McKinney to give us our talk today.
Is it possible that one of you guys could get me the headset? Because I would love to have it. I was so busy with everything else, I forgot it. I would appreciate it. I would, it's back there in the back, and I completely forgot. It is really, it's always an honor to stand in this particular place. And I'm listening to the announcements, and I actually kind of got lost a little bit in the hospitality. Some of you who have been here a long time know that I helped organize hospitality for a very long time. It's very close to my heart. And there were so many wonderful people who served, many people who are still serving, and just do it with such grace and hospitality that it is, they make it seem like a privilege. And what I can tell you is of the people that worked, some worked for years, one woman kept serving until she couldn't drive anymore. It was just like that.
I'll put this for you while you put it on, so you can multitask.
I'll just keep talking. And so she continued. She had to be driven, and she was still doing it because she loved serving that much. And I recommend it. I mean, I'm not saying you need to go be able to be in the nursing home when you're having a ride there, but still, she really, really she had such an amazing attitude about it and always served really well. And so she was in her 90s and kept serving in our kitchen. So, Mr. Grant, if I'm okay, am I? Hey, that's better. I do better if I can use my hands, so I thank your indulgence for that. So hospitality is lovely, and I'm going to tell one more hospitality story. I had asked someone who had just told me, let me help you do things, and asked for a different event if she could help me, and I said, it's really simple. You don't have to do anything, and I said, except peel, I think it was cut onions. That's what it was, chop onions. And so she didn't say a word. She said, I'll do that. She had never chopped an onion in her life. I know, but that's what she told me later. But she went out to the store, she bought an onion, and she went home and she peeled it and she practiced chopping it so she could show up and do that chore for me. She only told me that later. I was flabbergasted. But that commitment that our volunteers have had just kind of chokes me up when I think about it. And it's just been so wonderful. I love this center and I love my time here. So that brings me to the reason that I'm standing here. The topic today is the 12th day of Christmas. Now, while you may think, I'm even wearing my kind of Christmas shawl today, you may think we're done with all that, and we probably are. However, Monday, just Monday, was the 12th day of Christmas. And in my personal experience, we only finished our Christmas about that time. Because of all of the travel that we did in the last few months, both my children in San Francisco and we as well, we just couldn't get together for the holidays, either Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was just sort of used up for other things. But I really sort of stomped my matriarchal foot a little bit and said, I have to have Christmas. I have to have Christmas with my babies. I have to be able to give those presents to them. I just felt incomplete. And so what the 12th day of Christmas does for me, because we had our Christmas, we met halfway in between in Paso Robles, and we had Christmas over last weekend. I cannot tell you what a sense of joy that I felt. It's a sense of completion, and to me, that's what the 12th day of Christmas is. It is a sense of completion. It is the end. 12 days after the birth of the baby in the manger. And it is that sense of completion that I was feeling when I was deciding to talk about today. My own need to have that sense of completion and all of the things that it brought up in me because of that. It turns out that the Magi, the wise men, didn't get to the baby in the manger until the 12th day. They had been following, and remember that the Magi, these are metaphysical ideas. They're for that higher faculties that we have, that insight, that understanding. And each of them had their own dreams, they had their own experience that was urging them to follow the star. And all of these are the symbols of the Christian period that we talk about. And so at this point, I want to step back and remind everyone that Christmas is really not just a Christian thing. It is a tradition, it is a celebration that transcends religion. All of the symbols of Christmas that we think of as Christmas time, especially when it comes to decorating, It doesn't know any border between religions. And that feeling of giving, that feeling of sharing gifts, that feeling of festivity and light, it's become so entrenched in our culture that it does transcend anything that's Christian or New Thought or anything in that realm. It is about the time and the season. It's tied with the winter solstice and the lessening of the light, so we celebrate the light. It's all entwined in that. And so when it came to the wise men were of the East. They weren't part of the Western culture, but they had these higher faculties and they were drawn to the light. And as they were drawn to the light, and the star, as called the Star of Bethlehem, settled over that stable, and they were drawn to it, and it took them that time, that 12 days, to come. And when they came, they brought gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And the gold stands for royalty. The frankincense stands for divinity. And myrrh for mortality. And see, these are all of the qualities that celebrate. We as human beings are royal in that we are our sovereign selves and we decide our own lives. And yet we are divine. And that divine lives in all of us. That is our teaching. And it is part of that notion that the Christ is within us. If we go back as early as like the 13th century, and he lived into the 14th, Meister Eckhart, who was a German priest, said in his translations we read, he said that the Christ is reborn, that Christ consciousness, that divinity is reborn in each of us. And if that were not true, then what would be the point of celebrating Christmas? It can't be about one baby in a manger. It has to be about everyone, that we all are reborn. And so Ernest Holmes celebrated that idea that on Christmas Eve, that we are celebrating the rebirth of that Christ consciousness within us. And it goes all the way back to the wise men bringing the sovereignty, the divinity, and the gifts of mortality, humanity, and confirming that this birth is not just for the Jewish people or the Christian faith that will grow up around that. It's not just for that, but it's for all, because they came from the East. And ultimately, the Christ child is taken to Egypt for a time, for safety. So it is part of a much larger fabric. And as the traditions have moved forward, and we've had traditions that have been added, one of the ones was of the Christmas tree. And if anything besides Santa Claus transcends the notion of a Christian tradition, it's the Christmas tree. A tree, a decorated tree in some way, is a pagan custom. So it goes way back to Druids and to earlier times. But in moving more into modern times, in the medieval times, trees started to be decorated. And by something like the 14th, 15th century, they were putting candles. Martin Luther put candles, lighted candles on a tree. We think of it as fire, which we don't need to think of. But that's what was done. And by move forward to the 19th century, the tree became an emblem, even in cathedrals. And even in the Queen Victoria decorated the palace in England. But the tree didn't start out as a Christian symbol. It was just adopted. And it transcends anything that's Christian. There are trees everywhere we go. And it is this symbol of life, even if they're plastic trees. It doesn't matter. It's the symbol. And so we were so jammed for time in our house in the time leading up to Christmas itself as well as our own travel, all we got that tree up, and the lights were already on it because that's the way we store it, and we put like 10% of the ornaments, but it was up and it was decorated. So every night I'm going to bed and I look down at those lights, it does something for me. It just makes me feel something. And so this idea that I can have rekindled this notion of my family coming together, which was so important to me, as well as the giving, and I love the giving, and seeing the grandchildren delight and I can play with them. And at one point, my granddaughter, she and I were doing just a little task, and she's painting, and she said, "I love being with my family." What do we do this for if we don't do it for love and for giving and for being a part of something greater than we are? And so as part of all of that, see, the tree sort of symbolizes it in an emotional way. Now, some of you know I do a book reading on Wednesday morning before this class, and as very often happens, something in what we read today manages to worm its way into what I'm thinking about. And we're nearing the end of the book, Quantum Healing, so we're sort of winding up. And the chapter is about bliss and the meaning of bliss. And it is a practice that is undertaken, is taught as part of Ayurvedic medicine, as part of healing. And so a woman is describing her practice, and she has a disease that she's working on. And there is a sort of a diary report that's in the book. And she talks about this feeling. She said, I can feel happy and joyful, but the feeling of bliss actually is physical. It just moves through me in some way. And we talked in the class about how healing that can be. Well, my mind telescoped back to that feeling when I was coming back from Paso Robles, that physical feeling. I was calling it joy, but it was that physical feeling of bliss. And that's what it was. I felt complete. So the 12th day of Christmas for me was Monday, and it was the end of that, and I feel complete. I feel that now I can move on to 2025. I said all day yesterday, today's the first day of 2025. I said it everywhere I went, and people go, what's wrong with you? But that's the way I feel. And everything now, it doesn't mean that everything got done that Nick wanted to get done in 2024, but I have a new lease, a new way. I have a sense of completion on the 12th day. And I'm moving forward on one day 1, day 2, day 3, whatever it happens to be. The calendar has no meaning. It has no meaning unless I choose to give it meaning. Which brings me to this other idea. The idea that we are sovereign, that we can understand even from the Christian tradition, dates back to those biblical times. Whoever put the Bible together, however it was written, I mean, in the Christian world, they believe it was inspired by the Spirit of God. But there is something about the Bible that speaks to me. I was in a Bible history class in the fall, and we used a book whose title is Reading the Bible Again for the First Time. And if you've ever studied anything and then taken it again, you know how you find new things to notice. I've noticed it even in Science of Mind classes. But that's how he takes the whole study, the metaphysical study of the Bible. And then the subtitle is, I take the Bible seriously, but not literally. And so that touches my soul because I think that is the way I always felt. I picked and would choose those things that I put my heart into. And I love the Bible. I love studying the Bible. I find the truths in there that work for me. And so this whole feeling at Christmas of having it all be intertwined with the fact that the Magi came on the 12th day of Christmas and brought the gifts of sovereignty, divinity, and humanity to all of us, I bring into my heart. And what that says today, and in the times we're in right now, what it says is that we have the right as sovereign beings to choose what we will spend our time on, what we will think about, what we will indulge, how we will respond to things. And I don't just mean how we respond to someone who's talking to us. I mean about world events. Right now, the world is on fire locally. It's at war in so many places. And even in our own country, we are fighting and people are doing things to each other. None of that has to affect us in our own sovereignty. We can have opinions. We can have ideas. But ultimately, we decide whether it disturbs our soul or not. That's our sovereignty. And it doesn't mean we don't take action. It doesn't mean anything. We do. But it doesn't disturb our soul, because I am the one that decides how I want to be. And if I'm reading something that is just characterizing things in the worst possible way, I stop reading it. And I don't watch news on television, so I don't have that thing to get rid of. But it's important that we not entertain these negative things if we don't want to feel that way. Do you want to listen to those things? I can't imagine that anyone does. And so what we can learn from the Christmas story, is that we have the sovereign right to allow our divine selves to manifest itself. I decide how I respond. And I mean respond emotionally. Because how we respond emotionally is what keeps us healthy physically. The other thing that quantum healing was talking about, and this particular woman who was talking about bliss, and she has a cancer tumor that she is choosing not to treat medically, but choosing to treat otherwise in Ayurvedic medicine. And she said she noticed when she got overly sad and sorrowful, she had pain. So she understood she needed to stop and move back into that blissful state, and the pain would subside. The mind-body connection is almost beyond what we can comprehend. But it's why we do yoga. It's why we take care of these bodies that we have. It's why we eat in a way that we believe is healthy for us. We understand that it matters. It all matters. And if it matters, we can make decisions about how we proceed. And so if we do anything at the beginning of the year that we set an intention for, it's to honor our sovereignty. Honor that divinity within us, but recognize we live in this world and things happen. They happen to lots of people. What we also have to remember is that God is always good. God is not sending bad things to anyone. There is no punishment. There is none of that. What there is God is good, and things happen, and there are consequences. People make decisions, do things, and there are consequences to all of us. I've experienced some of those consequences in the past year. I absolutely have. And I see the connection, and I blame no one, not even myself. It was a learning experience, and I completed so many things on the 12th day of Christmas. And so, in conclusion, I want to say how much joy I am feeling for this year. I know that this is a year of wonderful things happening. I'm having a big conference at the end of the month that's going to be in this room and in Richelieu Hall. Practitioners and ministers will be coming and doing this. And I've entitled it, It's a Wonderful World. It's a wonderful world. And I decided this before, go back a couple of months. No matter what happened, I decided it's going to be a wonderful world, and that's what I'm going to celebrate. And we are celebrating that here. You too can decide. You can decide equally with anyone else. You are that sovereign being. Allow yourself to step into that. And as Tiny Tim said, and I just love, God bless us, everyone. Join with me and let's all say that. God bless us, everyone. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. And now is the time when we practice one of those practices of the science of mind teaching, and that is giving. And so this is a chance to support this center. We are doing wonderful things, and we love your support and depend on your support as we are moving forward in 2025. So as you consider your gift, I invite you, even if you give online or you give in other ways, I know that I do, I put my hands next to my heart because it's with love that I give. And I say our affirmation. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper. All those who receive and all those who give. I think I did that backwards. And I give this gift with love, and so it is. So, are there any ones who have something to say or are standing in the need of prayer or are just want to comment about something that's going on in your life? I sidle over here to this speaker because I can hear you better this way. And there is the wonderful Mr. Vincent who will give you a mic so that you can speak into the microphone. We have a lot of peaceful people who are in their own sovereignty, Vincent, so. But the man behind the screen has something to say. Thank you, Carl.
Anytime. I just like to have prayers for the people in the Palisades, and as well as Pasadena and Altadena. Lita and I used to live in the Palisades for many years. We still have friends there, and I'd like a prayer for all of them.
Absolutely. And so as we breathe in, and in this room, the air is clean and peaceful, and we allow ourselves to know that all of those who are caught in less than peaceful places, Pacific Palisades, Altadena, the valleys that are being moved through with these flames that seem to have a life of their own, that however that operates, whatever is going on, that they're finding peace, they're finding safety. And the meteorological conditions that have contributed to this change. Weather changes, winds die down, and things calm down. And what we're knowing is that this happens for people all over this northern part of our county and into other counties, so that it is bringing that life-giving peace to those people who are feeling caught in harm's way. And for all of those who are gripped by fear, for the loss of their homes or their goods or of their peace of mind, let us know that presence I call God, that peace that is God, just simply moves over those souls like a blanket, wrapping them in the love and care and comforting of so many prayers and voices, including everyone in this room and beyond. There is nothing more powerful than the power of love and the power of comfort from that power that each of us have. So we lift up our voices in this absolute divine blanket of peace, of love, and of safety for all we care about and all of those we care about. This is all for good. And as the good flows through our hearts and minds to all of the affected people, it is accomplished. I am so grateful to know that the words spoken are in the mind of God and are moving toward their destination in peace, love, and whatever needs to happen to bring this to closure. In gratitude, I simply release this word knowing it is done. And I say, and so it is.
Hi, if I may add a follow-up. Many of us throughout life are faced with deep challenges that when we went through, we may still recall the difficulty and the challenge and how hard it was to stay watching the glass half full when conditions were forcing us to see the part that was quote unquote empty. And in dealing with the whole, Carl and I have very dear friends in the Palisades, Santa Monica area. We also know of people that live in Altadena, Pasadena, et cetera, et cetera. And we were some of the people, like many, many others, that lost our home in the earthquake in '84. So it brings back a lot of the memories of how it is truly a life-changing thing to lose your home, your livelihood, et cetera. And I would like support from myself and everybody. One, I've been trying to remind myself, God is life supporting itself. If I define life as consciousness, it's consciousness supporting itself. We're viewing embodied consciousness in a universe of order, as you said, that has cause and effect. It's neutral in that sense. And what I'm trying to remind myself, this is happening all over the world. People are facing challenges to the ability to stay consciously present and loving in whatever their circumstances. And what I'm asking for support is, when I remind myself that as easily as I'm feeling the empathy and projecting onto other people the difficulties we went through when we lost everything in the earthquake and there by fire, but at the same time, if I try to remember that as long as I stay focusing on life supports life,
Yes.
then I can be a resource to anyone around me, either in prayer or in peacefulness or in actual help of some kind. So it feels to me that I would appreciate support in just coming right back to the best way that I can support anything that is happening in this drama of life is just to stay peaceful and connected and basically ask for guidance. What next? What next? What next?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate what you said. And I think the way I think of what we're avoiding, what we each can avoid doing, is awfulizing what we're hearing. And that's part of the reason that I'm saying that, and that's part of why you don't need to keep exposing to all the details. You listen enough that you can stay safe. But the more we spend it, oh, they're having this and it's so awful and I'm worried and the more you put that's what you're putting into the consciousness, whether you're speaking about the people in Gaza or in Africa or in the Palisades. You're not contributing to that overall consciousness of healing and wholeness. And I'm not blaming anyone, but there is no good and bad in the eyes of God. There's just consequences. And so as the thought or the activity or things that we don't know, that we cannot control, happen, what we get to choose is how we respond. And while it may feel like we're being kind and compassionate as we talk about how awful it is, I'm not sure that that's the case. What we can say is that I don't know how this is going to end, but I know, and then you say what you do know, is that God is good. God supports our prayers for the highest and best for all concerned. And I know that peace is happening. It is happening in the Palisades. The winds will die down. Firefighters will have enough water. That is happening. I don't have to know how. I can listen to the news and say, well, the next county is going to be filing. I can talk about all that. But ultimately, I have to know they have what they need and that it is enough and that it solves this issue. But I also want to stay in that place even after this crisis does subside, and it will. We can all understand that each of us, whether we are directly affected or partly affected, we all have a part to play in the one consciousness, the one mind. I often use the metaphor that I am a thread in the blanket of creation. I'm a thread, but I'm a vital thread. I'm an important thread. And without that thread, that blanket is not complete. Every one of us in this room and in the sound of my voice are threads in that blanket. So it does matter. It matters what you say when you're quiet and you're not talking to anyone. It matters what you think. It certainly matters what you feel. And so it's an opportunity to practice, because that's all we're really doing on this plane. Because yes, we are sovereign and yes, we're divine, but we're also human. We are human living in a relative world. And so choosing, if we realize that that might not have been the best choice, I could choose again. I can do it immediately. I can say, no, that is not what I want. This is what I want, and this is what I know. We can always choose again, every one of us. So know that sovereignty in that way too. It's not that you may never make what you think of as a mistake. You just look back and think, oh, wish I hadn't done that. There are no mistakes, really. There may be things we regret, but there's no mistakes. And that idea that I leave that behind unless I need to apologize, unless I need to clean up the plate I broke on the floor, unless all of that. So you do that. You clean up. But you move forward, and you don't dwell. Even if it was grandmother's favorite plate that you smashed to smithereens, or someone else's grandmother's plate. You have to clean it up and move on. And so mistakes happen, but we can consciously, right in this space, decide, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make it last for at least an hour. Maybe at least half an hour. Can I hear an amen? Come on. All right. It is good. It is good for you. It's good for all of us. It's good for humanity. So let's just know that it's so. Thank you very much for the question, comment. I don't need to do another talk, so. Does anyone else have a question, though, that they would like, or something they would like to share? Vincent's still standing there with the mic. And I thank whoever the gods or these speakers are. I hear beautifully. I appreciate it very much.
Can you address the concept of the opportunities that are available in situations that appear to be difficult?
The opportunities. I don't know that if you mean like make a list, I'm not sure I can make a list, because I'm not sure that in each individual situation that it's that specific. If I have opportunities, for example, I had many opportunities about what I would stand and talk about today. There are many opportunities. A lot of things came to my mind, but something just decided within me. I picked one of the many things because it resonated with me. It's the same thing when I write a prayer. I pick and choose what goes in there, and I don't actually know why. I don't think I can tell you, except that it's what resonates with me. And see, I'm one thread in that blanket, and you're a different thread. So what you might pick might be different. What I'm saying is the opportunities are infinite. And knowing that you have many opportunities is the first step to opening yourself. That and being quiet, and I know you spend time in quiet. So opening your mind and not being critical of everything that comes in just allows it to flood you. That's what happens in meditation. You accept what comes, and then you just allow it to be. And as you move forward into mind treatment and affirming, then you are picking and you're allowing it to move through you. Not like your ego is picking, that part of you that's divine is picking. And that, to me, is how the opportunities present themselves as I understand it. I hope that satisfies you at least for half an hour. Anyone else? We have the yoga teacher, Dana, down front. By the way, if you all want to go to yoga, Tuesdays, 11 o'clock, right there in Richelieu Hall. It's a great time.
I guess maybe my understanding of your comment was an opportunity to help. And I felt the same way when I woke up and heard about the fires, because I know people there too. And I was thinking that I should reach out, but I didn't want to just reach out and say I'm sorry, but I couldn't decide how I could help. And later, I just gave it time, and later, what resonated with me is cleanup. There's going to be a lot of cleanup, just from ash and just around our own homes. So that's what I texted to my friends, is that when all of this is done, I am available with a rake and a broom to help clean up. So that's what I thought maybe you might be looking for, is an opportunity to help. How can we help? And
It could be opportunities for more than that, but that's a great example. What came to her were opportunities to help. She didn't know how until it just came to her. You heard her say it just came to her. Once you open the invitation, I want an opportunity, I want to help, in this case, it comes. All of our prayers are answered, and they're answered so incredibly well. I sometimes, as much as I stand here and profess conviction, I'm still surprised at the way the divine shows up in my life. So I know it shows up in your life. I know it does. Anyone else? Thank you, Dana. That was terrific. I appreciate that. Anybody online who's watching fires from afar have your own thoughts? And I know your prayers are appreciated as well. So I think that Grant gave me the high sign a minute ago, so I guess we're time to be done. And so let's just know that we're all doing wonderful things in the world as we proceed, all of us, and make that happen, even if it's a smile, even if it's a helping hand, and a wonderful, wonderful way to be. So let's know that we do all of this together in joy and in love. And so it is.